Hey, how's it going today? It's Frankie here and with another Funny Fridays. And this movie is called Terry's Car Gets Stolen. And I gotta say, when I read the title and when I read the description, it kind of sounded like the movie called Dude, Where's My Car? It's so similar to that. And I've got to say, I wanted it to be good. I wanted it to be funny in some parts. And it actually kind of was for a movie like this. Again, it's quite a short movie. And some of these short movies I've seen recently have not been up to scratch. But I've got to say, this movie was actually kind of funny. It may not be everyone's cup of tea when you watch it. I mean, the acting probably wasn't that good for a movie like this. But the scenes were actually my sort of humour for movies like this. I like the scenes that is typically funny, and some scenes is obviously funny. They kind of made the national original in how the movie was. It's about this guy called Terry, obviously, whose car gets stolen, and he has to work with someone called Porno Paul. YouTube, don't take this video down because I mentioned that word. That's the guy's name in the movie, you know, and he actually helps Terry find his car, and it kind of gets a bit chaotic. There's some fight scenes in it, there's some funny craziness happening, you know. I'm gonna skip the start, but I'm not gonna mention this movie in order because I've got a habit of talking about the movie but not in order. And you know, they kind of meet up, and then the shop is kind of funny. Oh, 1 second. Hey, I'm back. Sorry, I just had to let the cat out the room. So where was I on this? Oh yeah, the scene, the shot where Terry gets to meet Porno Paul after coming back from the police station. They couldn't do anything. And this Porno Paul, he's probably the best character in this movie. I think he's my favourite character in this movie, where he actually talks about his, you know, his acting and that, you know, industry. And he sort of says, I'm not a very good actor. That kind of makes me laugh when he talks about it. And then you sort of like have to meet at the diner. And yeah, and he obviously wants to work with him because he spoke to this guy called Roger over the phone. And Roger's sort of like a strange, shifty kind of dude. The diner part's also funny. When you hear like Paul talking about, you know, his relationship and how that ended. And how he was talking about his career in that industry. And after he finished talking, you know, because he mentions a guy called Mickey who we get to see towards the end of the movie, and after he finishes talking, it's so, you just see the waitress just standing behind them, just listening in, and that, I like that scene. There's a lot of movie scenes that I like, that I kind of like when somebody talks and somebody's just behind them just listening to a crazy story. I like that scene right there. Then they got me Roger dude, and this usually says got to bring me the package back, and I mean the Roger character, I don't know how to describe him. I know it's meant to be a comedy, so they come in like a funny wannabe villain kind of thing, kind of make him look a bit weirdly dodgy, you could say. And you ask for them to get a package from a place, you know, from like someone's house called Hiab Jesus. Don't ask me what sort of name that is. I've never heard that name before, but yeah. So they go in. This guy's kind of like on roller skates. I have no idea why. I think him and I think his friend or partner called Pamela, like some, everyone's called him, I don't know, would they call him hippies or something? I don't know. And then they start talking. They start getting to, you know each other. And and Paul just goes ahead and just becomes all chaotic. And it acts like, and after he drinks the juice, he's like, oh, this is a setup. Oh, and he starts flipping the table over, he starts punching this dude. I'm like, what is going on? And then his reasoning for that was because, in the instructions, Roger didn't mention glitter and the juice box because he's a very specific guy. What? He was even saying weird things, like when they were waiting for the precise time to get into the place. They could have still gone in there anyway. And they start wondering, they see this dude that trying to catch up with him. He says, oh, I followed the glitter trail. And he starts coming after them on roller skates with a whip, and then they have to, and then this, you know, and then Paul jumps over a fence. But what made me laugh is that Terry actually went around because there was a gap. So Paul didn't need to jump over that fence. And yeah, so they kind of walk, you know, they can't go over that. You know, Terry goes over, you know, by the fence. And then they're going to a strip club, and then you know, they start talking. It's like, oh, yeah, this, and you know, who else will come after 2? I think after 2. I mean, it was definitely after 2 p.m. But I can't wait till you mention. Oh, who comes to strip clubs at this time? Oh, that's right, losers do. they go in, and Paul has to, I don't know where Paul popped off to, and then this woman goes up to Terry, says that, she wants to, I don't know, she was just talking to him kindly, she wanted him to get a drink. And then Terry goes into the bathroom, and he sort of sees a note from Paul. I think it's probably written by somebody else. And then, I think, what's her name? Ava. I think that's her name, Ava. I think it's also Jenny, because that's Paul's ex. You eventually see him talking to her towards the end of the movie, which I'll get onto soon. I'll just call it Ava for now, because that's the name she gave. And then she talks to Terry says, you have to come with me, I think you're in danger. And Terry says no. She calls guards in and says that he's he doesn't swing that way, just to get two dudes to come in. The security comes in. They try to knock him out, and they're not even strong enough to knock him out. I mean, I'm not necessarily strong enough, but I'm saying in terms of the movement, in terms of security, they should have done. I'm like, oh my god, I can't do this. What are we doing? I can't knock him out. And then they eventually do get to knock him out, because Terry did agree to follow them. And then one of the dudes sort of pushes his head into like some sort of like the wall or something, and he goes unconscious. They put him into a van, and then before they drive off, the guys is in the back seat with him. He's like, oh my god, he's bleeding from the nose. And the dude that owns the van says, come on, man, what are you doing? Bleed from the nose. This is my mum's van, man. We can't. You got to wipe it. No, we can't leave. And then then Ava tells him to knock him out again, if that would help. And well, that's what the guy suggested. Punches him, and then he says, oh my god, he's bleeding more. And he's like, oh my god, what the hell? What are we gonna do? This movie, man, I actually like this movie. I wouldn't say it's the best. I wouldn't rate it that high. This is a quality movie. I like it, despite how the movie looks. I know not many people like it, but it certainly has proper humour, this movie, which I like. And they even take him to like this guy called to Mickey's place, and they start having a conversation about why Terry there and stuff like that. And yeah, this is the guy that Paul owes money to. That's why Terry's been held hostage. This is all because that Terry's trying to find his car, by the way. So imagine this happened in real life, where someone had to go on a wild goose chase to find their car. Imagine, there probably has been somebody anyway. And then he ends up quoting some stuff from the 80s, and Terry sort of talks to him about it, and then they talk about Bon Jovi. I'm going to skip that anyway. And the guards are sort of like is down there. I don't know what floor they're on, first floor, maybe basement, I don't know. And they said, one of the guys said, what do you think he's doing up there? The other girl goes, maybe he's getting tortured. And the guy said, gross. And he starts talking to him about his, what his life wants to be. I'm going to skip that bit. I'm going to skip past the boring parts of the movies and just get straight to it. Ava comes back in and starts talking. And Paul eventually finds where Terry's at. And he starts trying to have a fight with the guards. And he bites the leg and he's like, oh my god, oh my god, what's happening? And there's a chaotic fight scene. And that's when you see Paul talking to Ava / Jenny, because he calls her Jenny. And, excuse me, and he starts talking to her about he wants to get back with her and he misses her. And yeah, he sort of also says something like, I know I have intimacy issues, as get with me, something like that. And he eventually goes into where Mickey is at, and they start talking, having a conversation. He's like, oh, you don't have my money, I see. You owe me a lot of money, my friend. That's why your friend Stevie is in this sort of situation. And he's only going to agree to let him go if he's gets some money. And then there's a weird moment in this movie where he sort of has a nosebleed. I don't know where that came from. I think because he's been, snorting about cocaine or whatever it was. He turns when he sort of acts a bit high and crazy. He takes out a samurai sword and he chops excuse me. He sort of slices Paul's hand off, his arm off. I'm like, this gets a bit dark and a bit serious for a comedy movie. I don't agree with it. If it was a comedy horror I did, and they have a tiny horror element like that, I can understand it. But to have something like this, I know it's meant to be humorous. There's not much humor I found in that, to be fair, but I guess it's the reactions that makes it comedic. A lot of movies seem to do this anyway. And then they start to get in a car, and then eventually they get into Terry's car, by the way. And Paul does find Terry's car. You don't see it, but They get into the car and I tell you, this is my car. What is going on? He said, I found it, man. It turns out the car was taken by Somali pirates. I don't know, a bit unrealistic. But then Roger says, oh, these Somali pirates are always on my turf. They don't know when to leave, man. And how you got it back. And you see like Paul just hallucinating, just talking. He's just out of it. And then Roger's on with the packages and tells and says it wasn't actually a setup type of thing. I kind of knew it wasn't. I literally thought it was Terry getting set up the entire time, like a test. I don't know why that would be such a storyline into it. Don't know what the purpose of that would be. We know these comedies, it's not meant to make sense in some elements, but it would have been better to have him set up the entire time for some reason. I don't know why I thought that, And he wasn't actually going to plan to kill Terry. I don't know what he was going to do. He just left him to it. And then you see Terry and Paul just have a bit of a conversation. Paul just saying, I'm glad you my friend, man. You don't want to leave your man. We got this. And Terry just reminiscing with him. Not much reminiscing because they haven't known each other for long. And then Roger just shoots him at the back of his head. That got a bit dark. Terry became traumatic. They dumped Paul's body inside of a trunk where Chris is at. Now I was nearly about to forget to mention this scene. Chris is the guy that is was it Terry's ex's workmate, you could say. So basically Clara's workmate, and there was an interaction early in the movie where Paul was being so awkward. He said, hi, I'm Paul, yeah, hi, Terry's car got stolen, and Terry just said, no it didn't. And he was having to catch up with Clara and seeing who she's with and stuff like that. And Paul just makes it awkward, man. The way he was looking at him, I mean, yeah. So that's what I had to mention that scene just in case some of you might be like, where did Chris come from in this scene? Now you know. As a Chris, I don't know what happened to Chris. He was still in the trunk of the car. You see Terry's face looked all traumatized. I would be too. And then he gets out the car. And then Roger sort of says, you've got to get yourself cleaned up. Just wake up nice and fresh. I need to borrow your car. And then you see Terry starts a bit of glitter on him. And then leaves. And then you see him waking up. You see him doing his routine. And he hears the doorbell go. And he opens it. It's the hey up guy. He says, oh, I'll follow your glitter trail. Which is his phrase basically. And he ends up saying, what did Terry say? Oh, F me at the end. I know I can't swear because I mentioned Paul, that's because that's a guy's name. But yeah, he said F me. I think he said in another scene. Something like that, just can't quite remember. But yeah, that was it really. I kind of like that. It said an hour and 11, but that's because the credits were rolling. So it's an hour and 7 minutes. Slightly longer than that, a few seconds longer. So it's not a long movie. It was definitely worth it. The acting is not necessarily the best, but in a comedy movie, for me, the acting doesn't have to be good because you're going to act stupid in scenes anyway. So that's debatable with the acting. There needs to be some level of good acting in a comedy movie. But when you're watching a comedy, you just only see the funny sides of comedy. So to me, the acting doesn't necessarily have to be perfect, but they made up for poor acting in this one with the funny scenes. I would say this movie is fairly decent. Another thing I want to point out, I think there was a scene at the diner and there was another scene where when they were talking, it's like they were in the bathtub, like they were in the bathroom, which for me, I didn't like. That was disappointing. I've seen movies, I think it's movies that are this short that have such terrible, I don't know if something with the microphones or the audio from that they're portraying as, it's not supposed to be like that, I don't think. But when they got to the bathroom scene, it was better. But straight the bathroom scene should have been like that, which I would have understood. So it makes no sense. I've seen movies like this where the audio is just horrible, but at least the characters managed to be clear on their lines and what they were saying, which was actually really, really relieving to see, because I don't like seeing that. I don't know what you think, but yeah. Again, the videos are 15 minutes long, nearly 15 minutes anyway, just a few seconds to go. But yeah, I wasn't intentional. This movie, the way I describe movies, especially movies this long, that's how you know there's a lot of detail to it. If I miss anything out, I do apologise. But I think I gave away the whole movie anyway. I mean, I give out twists and spoilers. I don't. It's come to a point now I don't have to mention, that I give away the whole movie because I would do it because it's a review. But yeah, I got to say though, it's not a bad movie apart from like the seriousness and especially that scene that I forgot to mention, which was when Mickey sort of like fell down the stairs and he stabbed himself with a samurai sword. Yeah, I mean, it's weird to have a comedy that's got violent scenes like that. Maybe it's just I don't know. I mean, it was still a good movie overall. I kind of like it. I wouldn't rate it too highly, but this is the type of movie I'm talking about. And the previous movie I did watch, which was Kill Plan, I need to put it on TikTok as well as like a quick movie suggestion. I do that, by the way, on my Frankie Tiger 14 TikTok. If you haven't checked out, please do. I do link those into my description. I think I do anyway. But yeah, I'm going to post on there. And this movie is what I'll post too. So yeah, 2 of those things I'll do today. But yeah, rating. I was thinking of an 8, but then it is a good movie, but I don't think it's that good. I think it's decent enough. I'll give them that. Excuse me. The producer and director did well on this one. So thank you for giving a movie like this. It's not often you see a movie that's, especially a comedy movie that's this long and actually quite funny. So I want it to be good, and it was actually quite decent. So I like that. I'm quite happy for a change. Yeah. So that's it. 7 out of 10. What to improve? Acting. Probably could have had more scenes of humour. I really enjoyed that. I wanted it to be a bit longer. I actually enjoyed that movie. I actually want it to be long. I know it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I can tell that. That's understandable. This is why some of the ratings I give it as questionable. But for me, I think the rating I gave, I actually think it's fair for a movie like this. You might give it average, you might give it high, I don't know, right? And I don't think a lot of people have probably heard this movie. But I would say it's a definitely, it's a definitely must watch. It's definitely a movie that I would suggest. So yeah, 7 out of 10 it is. If you enjoyed the video, please give a like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification below. So I'll see you in my next video.